Do you enjoy the harvest of Missouri through food, fuel, or fiber? Interested in strengthening your community or making a difference in the lives of others? You're in the right place. This is Stand for Ag with Missouri Farmers Care. Join us for thoughtful conversations around the intersections of farmer, rancher, and consumer interests. Grab a seat, press play, and join the conversation.
Welcome to this episode of Stand for Ag with Missouri Farmers Care. We're thrilled that you're back with us. We're having another great conversation today about a different facet of Missouri agriculture, and that being the Missouri Horse Council and therefore Missouri's horse industry. So we haven't had a chance to talk about this industry. It's one that I'm personally passionate about, so I'm excited about this conversation. We are not only beef producers, but also have a significant investment and time investment in our horses. And so joined by two others who are leaders in Missouri in the Missouri Horse Council. So welcome, Joe.
Thank you. Thank you.
Welcome, Brenda.
Thank you.
Yeah, we'll go ladies first. Brenda, do you want to introduce yourself and tell everybody your location in the state, your role in the horse industry, and what's brought your interest to serving the Missouri Horse Council?
Sure. I am Brenda Wasser. I live just outside of St. Louis at Forestell, Missouri. Not a very big town, but we are part of Metro St. Louis. I live in Warren County, which is adjacent to St. Charles County, which butts up against St. Louis County. Very big horse country here. A lot of individuals, a lot of private individuals have horses. There are a lot of big stables in our area. A lot of horse activity. The National Equestrian Center is in our backyard. So we're 15 minutes from a big facility where a lot of horse shows are held. I own a barn, a farm. We keep about 50 head of horses. We do boarding, we do training, we do lessons, we do sales. As an individual, I'm a horse trainer and a riding instructor. I do this professionally, but I've been vested in it since I was a child. I started riding when I was 3. We started showing when I was about 5. And, so I kind of try to steward the industry and bring young people up as we go. Part of that, what I do is I'm a 4-H project leader for the Horse Project. And this year, I think we have about 20 kiddos enrolled in Horse Project here in Warren County. It is a county-wide project for us. And, we've got everybody from horseless horse kids that have never done this before, all the way up to we've got some young ladies that are very competitive to a state and regional level. So I try to help propagate those little growers and help them achieve their goals.
Brenda, you make me tired just hearing that long list of areas that you're involved in. Okay, so she just said she boarded horses. We've just had a huge snowfall this week. I'm sure that's not making any bit of life easier. So first, I would just like to say thank you for joining us today. I'd also like to say thank you. So I've got 2 boys now 4-H age and 1 on the way up. And we're probably, our countywide horse project is the value. I mean, there's leadership development, there's how to run a meeting, there's a fellowship that we get out of 4-H, but year in and year out, it's our countywide horse project that brings us back. These are volunteer leaders who share their time, expertise, and often their facilities. And it's the reason that we just keep learning and growing in the horse industry. And you're exactly right. It's for everybody with generations of horse experience behind them to those kids that want to come up. We have a lot of success stories in this county, and I'm sure you could tell us today as well of those kids that have gotten to live out their horse dreams because of 4-H, that they've gotten to be confident, safe, and to a level where they can compete and have a great time on the back of a horse thanks to 4-H.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. A lot of leadership opportunities there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and a lot of youth development opportunities that happens through all of this. Okay, so before we delve further into that, we've also got Joe Eddy. Joe, can you introduce yourself and your role?
Sure, I'd be happy to. So again, my name is Joe Eddy. We live just west of Columbia in the Rocheport area is where our farm is. We So I got involved with Missouri, with the Missouri Horse Council 4 or 5 years ago, right at the beginning of forming this group. Really saw a need, a void, if you would, in our industry for a place where we can, number one, just get together to share ideas and kind of what's working. Because if you're not familiar with the Missouri horse industry, it's very fragmented. There are a whole lot of different breed associations, saddle clubs, discipline specific organizations, and trail riding organizations, and the list goes on. And each of these organizations and groups, and then not even to mention equine businesses, like Brenda was talking about hers, there's a very large number of players in this industry. But we don't have, or haven't had consistently in the past, a way to kind of come together, share ideas, but maybe more importantly, show one unified voice for the horse industry in Missouri. And you hope that you never need that on the negative side, but on the positive side, you hope there are opportunities like that come up for those sort of things. So having that infrastructure in place is really, really important to us. I represent the Missouri Quarter Horse Association in Missouri Horse Council. I am not only a past president of that organization, but also a national director for the American Quarter Horse Association representing Missouri. I'm passionate about horses. We raise horses, we train horses, and we show horses. That's been a great thing for my family. And then I was thinking, as you guys were talking, I'm also a past 4-H club leader and a current 4-H horsemanship leader. So that's certainly been a big part of my life and my kids as well.
Yes. So those that we've talked a lot. Your son may have been a guest actually on this podcast early on, in that we talked about leadership development. Well, one of the things that Joe's used in his children's lives, leadership development, they've done well. So Joe's son, Justin, was recent past president of Missouri FFA Association, and now is at Mizzou, building on that success that he built through his experiences. So we've been happy to have him be a leader alongside us and contribute to all of the efforts that we have at Missouri Farmers Care. So Missouri Horse Council that Joe referenced, both Joe and Brenda are leaders in this organization and are representing the board today. Joe, you mentioned why it's a very fragmented industry, probably more so. I can't think of a lot of other agricultural commodities, let's say, that would be as differentiated as the horse industry. There's not a lot of commonality between maybe big dressage competitions that come into the center there by Brenda's house, as there is to the folks that I'm rodeoing with on a weekend. And so we just don't cross paths a lot. And that was the genesis behind the need for the Missouri Horse Council. It's an organization of organizations, much like Missouri Farmers Care. And so individual businesses like Brenda's, or breed associations like the Missouri Quarter Horse Association, and many others are then members. What drew each of you into helping get the Missouri Horse Council off the ground and keeps you coming back for your engagement there?
Well, I attended that very first meeting about 5 years ago at the invitation of Kelly Smith. And he had asked me to come, and I came, and I represented a local saddle club at that time. And I just felt like it was important that although we were a very small club, it could offer us a larger voice in things that were going on across the state, as far as health issues, as far as legislative issues, those kind of things. And so when Becky Kruger reached out to me, she was our past secretary. She reached out to me and asked me if I would be interested in serving as secretary. I was a little hesitant, nobody wants to be a secretary. Secretary's a lot of work, but I knew there was a need. And so I wanted to help fill that void. And I think the work that they do is very important as far as disseminating information to organizations, and therefore the individuals that belong to each of those organizations.
Well, like Brenda said, we did about 5 years ago, I suppose it was. I was trying to think how long ago that was. We had a meeting in St. Louis at the National Equestrian Center that we really just wanted the result of that meeting was kicking off this organization. But the kind of the genesis of that meeting was the Missouri Quarter Horse Association applied for a grant from the American Quarter Horse Association with the thought that to try to bring people together. Received that grant. I was the president of the Missouri Quarter Horse Association at the time and thought, oh man, now we got to do this. So what came out of that was what we called we had a kind of a celebration horses there for a weekend in February. But I knew from other things that Missouri Farm Bureau could really help me kind of with this roundtable idea is really what I had in mind. Maybe you could with resources and whatnot, just to help us get people together. So Kelly Smith was critical to that, and like Brenda said, helped us with those invitations. And we had a nice meeting where we got a number of players, if you would, in the industry together, representatives from different organizations, and that's kind of what came out of that, a kind of general consensus that yes, an organization like this was necessary. Missouri had an organization similar to this at one time, but they had disbanded previously, and there was a general consensus that we needed that to come together. And so we started working on it, and we've been, today that infrastructure is now in place. I consider Missouri Horse Council an infrastructure, a way for us all to come together and talk and collaborate on issues. And so I would say kind of some of the sticky work, the bylaws and the organizational structure and the requirements for membership and that sort of stuff, that's in place. We have a really strong organization. And I think we can do a lot for the Missouri horse industry going forward.
I agree with that. And it's been a pleasure. So Missouri Horse Council is a member of Missouri Farmers Care. It's been encouraging to see as this organization gets stronger and stronger, the foundation's built, the organization is growing, just the potential here, because there are issues that do bring a very diversified, fragmented industry together that address concerns, needs, and opportunities that affect everybody. So what are some things in the last couple of years that the Horse Council has weighed in on, engaged in, debated amongst membership? And then we can talk about what are the opportunities a couple years ahead of now.
Well, a couple of things that have come up legislatively. A while back, there was the thing with the electronic logging for truck drivers, and they were trying to classify people with horse trailers as truck drivers. And so that meant if you had your own horse and your own trailer and you wanted to go to the local state park and go trail riding, that you were going to have to start logging your hours and documenting all of that. And then whoever in the government was going to have access to that to do with whatever they were going to do with it. Another thing that has come up here recently, like in the last 6 months, has been the EPA is looking at our use of the pyrethrins group of insecticides. And in horses, we typically use that as a spray. And so then, yes, there is some possibility of that becoming airborne, traveling into water sources and affecting certain groups of fish. And while that is also important, it's important to the health and the behavior of our horses. Anybody that's been out trail riding or whatever, and you're dealing with horse flies or face flies or deer flies or whatever, that is just part of what we do. We use those fly sprays. And so Dr. Martin at University of Missouri, she weighed in on that. And, there was a hearing period where you could put your 2 cents in. And so we as a group did that. And I hope that the legislation that follows will reflect that.
It certainly is a common theme across Missouri agriculture that we exist and our organizations exist to weigh in on issues just like that responsible, respectful, and on-label use of products and tools and technologies on the farm are certainly things that we want to protect, right? That we know that we
Sure.
can be responsible and use things right, but there are critical tools that we need across agriculture. Pyrethrins would be one that is absolutely needed in the management and the comfort for our equine partners while we're working with them. So that's been an important one. Joe, have there been others that you guys have weighed in on?
Yeah, so a couple of things come to mind. One, we we are always in favor of keeping trails open for equestrian use, and there and now I've lost the exact location, but there was a hearing in the St. Louis area 2 years ago, a trail that had been open to equestrians for some time that was proposed to close to equestrians and only be available for pedestrians or bicycle use. And we attended that hearing and spoke on behalf of Missouri Horse Council and weighed in. Luckily, I'm happy to report that stayed open for equestrian use after that hearing. There's also, kind of a more recent thing is, this is a newer technology, but e-bikes. So electric bicycles are becoming extremely popular. And I get it because they're a lot easier to pedal, especially going up hills. But we are, I wouldn't say overly concerned, but we're concerned about their use on trails that have shared use with bicycles and horses and the speed at which they can travel. And so that's one of the things that we're currently talking about as an organization, and how we might want to weigh in on behalf of horse owners and horse enthusiasts in the state of Missouri. So those are things that that kind of come to mind with that question.
Same to me. The major issues that I see that are of consideration I'm sure, are just the protection for working horses. Like I said, with the tech and the right to use our ag technology, same in that we across agriculture utilize animals for food, fiber production, and in this case for working animals. And so ensuring that we can treat our animal partners and utilize our animal partners in the way that we feel they were created to be used is certainly an important issue in the horse industry, from exhibition to rodeo to show. There's a lot of issues there in ensuring and communicating that equine handlers are the experts about our animals, and ensuring that we get to weigh in with the strongest voice and have the strongest voice to weigh in when those conversations are had.
Yeah, well said. And what comes to mind there is some work that we've done in community. We've been in pretty close contact with the Illinois Horse Council because, as you probably have heard, in the city of Chicago, the carriage horses have been under attack, and we have carriage horses all over the state of Missouri. So from the plaza in Kansas City, in Branson, and St. Louis, they're in use, and for good reason. And so we certainly see possible negative things out there that we think we need to have a strong voice so we can advocate in just the way you said.
Exactly. And the reason Missouri Farmers Care was formed was really to speak with that strong voice, because there are activists. The reality is there are animal activists, there are anti-agriculture activists, that those carriage horses are just the beginning, right? They're the easy, most visible working horses that people see as they're driving through the busy plaza downtown in Kansas City. And so it's not really about the fate of the carriage horses. It's about our right to be able to utilize carriage horses or show horses or working horses that resonates with absolutely everyone across the industry.
Right.
So tell me, so we have so much possibility in Missouri Ag. We have an effort, we talk a lot on this podcast about an effort to add value to our agricultural industry as a whole. That $94.7 billion industry is big and is growing, but we have so many opportunities which we haven't tapped into yet in this state, right? Which is what we're all also looking forward and working on. So Joe, I know you're dreaming big. Brenda, I'm sure you're in these conversations too. Tell us a little bit about the opportunities that you see on the horizon.
Well, probably the number one opportunity that I see right now that has really been working on a lot lately the possibility of a new arena at in Sedalia at the state fairgrounds. You know, the mission of the state fair in Missouri is to communicate the story of Missouri agriculture and the Missouri State Fair in ways that appeal to the state's citizens. And a new arena which could house rodeos, livestock shows, horse shows on a large scale. I can't think of a better way to communicate that story of Missouri agriculture than that. You know, our state has kind of had a loss of these sort of facilities over the last few years. You know, I'm in just outside Columbia and work in Columbia. Had two facilities that had rodeos and horse shows and livestock shows for years that brought a lot of people and introduced a lot of people to agriculture. And that are both closed today, the Boone County Fairgrounds and the Midway Exposition Center. We've got the threat of the American Royal moving to the Kansas side in Kansas City. In Missouri, we have an opportunity because of our geographic location to attract a lot of events that would introduce people to agriculture and help us grow not only the equine industry, but also all of agriculture in the state of Missouri. So that is that's an area that I'm passionate about, that I think is a real opportunity for us and one that we're working on actively in the Missouri Horse Council.
And Joe, you shared with me earlier in conversation the economic impact of, unless you've been to one of these big national shows, it's hard to wrap, for our listeners who haven't, it's hard to wrap your head around how much economic impact, activity, the number of exhibitors, the amount of money we're all willing to spend on our horses. Give me an example of an economic impact of some of these large national shows.
Well, there are a number of them that I've found and have attended myself or our kids participate in, but the one that really strikes home for me, the discipline that I am in horses, and my son is, not my daughter, but my son and I show reining horses, and we can go into what that is, but the Reining Horse Association, the National Reining Horse Association, their premier event is the NRHA Futurity, and it's held the first part of December every year in Oklahoma City. In 1972, that event was held in Sedalia in the Coliseum for 1 year before it moved to Oklahoma City for better facilities. That I looked at it the other day. That one event that goes for roughly 10 or 11 days in December hosts over 1,000 horses, and according to the National Reining Horse Association, generates over $28 million in economic impact. That's a show that was here. I don't know that it can come back, but believe me, if we build it, a lot of others will come, and maybe we can get that one back too.
Absolutely, I agree. You know, we are crisscrossing the states as high school and junior high rodeo participants. We'll be going from Des Moines, which was a great Midwestern one, to Perry, Georgia, to New Mexico, back to Nebraska. You know that those sort of national events would love a central location that has the facilities that are up to standard to support the needs of their participants.
Well, and it's always interesting to me, if you get on Interstate 44 sometime, try counting the number of horse trailers that you see heading west or heading east that have Illinois, Indiana, Ohio license plates on them. They go right through our state to Oklahoma and Texas to a lot of these horse shows and whatnot. Why not just stop here and spend that money in the Show Me State?
Exactly. You know, we haven't talked about this yet. So Joe referenced that a new pavilion at the state fairgrounds. So one of the things that's under the legislature's consideration this spring is that the governor's 2023 budget recommendations include the funds to purchase an additional piece of land for the Missouri State Fairgrounds. So those who are regular fair attendees may be scratching their heads wondering where in the world would we put a brand new exhibition center, but this would be approximately 400 additional acres that would be split between State Fair Community College and the Missouri State Fair. So that's 200 acres of land that is a great time for Missouri to purchase. There will not be another opportunity to expand the existing state fairgrounds like this opportunity is, and creates these opportunities for us to say, what are we missing? What's on the horizon, and what do we need to capitalize on this time? And so that will be there'll be new campsites, the infrastructure to support those campsites, and the fencing and everything that's needed. And we are just thrilled as a Missouri Agriculture, a Missouri Farmers Care weighed in, and all of our members in the letter to the governor supporting that expansion, because we think it is a fantastic time to capture some of those exhibitors that would love to stay here in the Midwest and would love a premier exhibition opportunity here. So Brenda, what has you excited for the future of Missouri Horse Council, what we can weigh in on in this industry?
I'm super excited about this possibility of an additional show venue here in Missouri. I think that would help draw a lot of people from other states, and certainly provide another option here to the people that live in Missouri. Joe was talking about the economic impact of a horse show, and one of the biggest horse shows that we attend every year is the Quarter Horse Congress. It's held in Columbus, Ohio. Now I don't have last year's figures, but I believe the numbers are somewhere around, over the 3 weeks in October that show runs. It has an $81 million impact. $81 million to the city of Columbus. So, imagine that. I mean, certainly I don't expect us to come up with a horse show like that right off the bat, but it would be interesting to think about even smaller shows. That horse show provides 7 covered acres of indoor shopping. That doesn't account for all the outdoor shopping of trucks and trailers and fencing equipment and modular buildings and all of the other paraphernalia that horse people buy. It is the 5th largest trade show for any industry in the world.
Wow.
And 3rd biggest horse show for any single breed in the world.
Wow.
So, if we could get a little slice of something like that here in Missouri, I think that would be fabulous. It would provide a lot of opportunities, not just for Missouri residents, but also, like I said, for people coming out of state. Joe's got a point. Those people come from somewhere. And, what they say is typically, I know the economic impact study that was done for the National Equestrian Center here at Lake St. Louis, they say that for every exhibitor that comes, there is at least one horse, sometimes multiple horses, that they typically stay 2 to 3 days. They typically bring 2 to 3 family members. And so each one of those people has to eat while they're here. Everybody has to have some place to stay. They do offer RV hookups on the grounds, but most of those people are going to stay in hotels here in the area, and any additional shopping they might do while they're here.
Yep. That is such a huge opportunity, and would leverage our existing state fairgrounds to be able to utilize the infrastructure, as you say. What a great point on trade shows and shopping, which also adds economic activity and sales tax revenue and all of that. So it is a bright time in the horse industry. We really haven't even talked about the dynamics of the horse industry. So the horse industry has been exceptionally hot since COVID began, as with any outdoor sports. So from canoes to bicycles, right? Everything became a hot commodity. The horse industry has experienced that as well. So we've been able to welcome, I would suspect, a lot of new horse owners in the state of Missouri. Over that, there's no way that alone we have all driven demand this high. And so it is a great time to learn more about the horse industry and get connected. And I think that is an opportunity to talk a little bit about the Horse Council, who can be members, how to become members, and just that the foundation's built. We've already explained that, but there's so much room for growth in this organization. So tell us a little bit about that, Brenda and Joe.
I'd be happy to talk to that. So the way that we're organized, again, we're an organization of organizations and businesses. And so to join, the requirements are that you be an equine organization or an equine related business. And each member that each group or business that joins designates one person to be their representative on the board of directors. So each member has one director of the organization. And then from that board of directors, we elect our executive council each year at our annual meeting. So we have an officer team as well as a few just board members, at-large board members that we elect every year. The opportunities are out there. We have no idea how many equine-related businesses there actually are in Missouri. There are a lot. We know there are a whole lot of equine associations, and this is now an easy way to get involved and help make your mark to make Missouri a better place for horse people in general.
So, Mrs. Secretary, how do people join?
You just contact the Missouri Horse Council. You can download the form online, or you can reach out to one of the council members and just fill out your form and pay your dues, and then you get connected. We do offer, one of the new things that we offer is a text alert system that goes along to help with mostly health issues. At this point, there was the vesicular stomatitis outbreaks in the last couple of years. And so that really affected people who were trail riding and or rodeo and or horse shows. And so in order to keep that information disseminated out to people, what was set up within the Missouri Horse Council is, if you are an organization member, then you can sign up for text alerts. You can have them sent to a designated member or to all of your individual members if you wanted to let you know about issues like that come up, and we get those in a very timely fashion. Like, we get those within hours after the state veterinarian issues those alerts.
That's a great service. I've pulled up the website to the Horse Council. So for those that are looking for more info and those organizations that think that this might be appealing and the right fit for them, it's MissouriHorseCouncil.com. There's newsletters out there, meeting minutes, and a link to become a member or subscribe to the newsletter for non-members, for individuals that are engaged that may want to find out more before they bring their organization to this group. So make sure to check that out. For those that this has piqued their interest, this conversation has started an interest, and there's a lot more information to be found out there.
This is just kind of an aside, but you mentioned how hot the horse market is right now. It is incredibly hot. And it goes on for generations. Grandma or grandpa might ride, and they pass that on to their son or daughter, and then the next thing you know, they've got grandkids.
Well, it has been a pleasure to visit with you both today. Thank you for taking time from some very busy lives to join us, and thank you for taking your time for leadership in the Missouri Horse Council as well. We appreciate your investment and your membership in Missouri Farmers Care. Thank you for making this coalition of agricultural organizations truly represent the breadth and depth of Missouri agriculture. It wouldn't be complete without an organization such as yours in all of the other variety of dairymen, dog breeders, levee and drainage districts, ag teachers, and agricultural businesses and commodity groups that make up Missouri Farmers Care. So hats off to both of you. We appreciate it. And thank you for tuning into this episode of Stand for Ag with Missouri Farmers Care.
Thank you for joining the Stand for Ag podcast with Missouri Farmers Care. We're excited to bring you new stories each week. We as agriculturalists have a lot of stories to tell. Stories of resilience, grit, and stories of families that are united by their passion for agriculture. Each week, tune in for a new episode and join the conversation.